The trading floor was unusually quiet that morning. No ringing phones, no frantic typing, just the hum of tension hanging in the glass-walled executive suite. Then she walked in. Staff turned in confusion, their eyes widening at the sight of a U.S. Marine in full dress blues. But this wasn't a ceremony. This was a reckoning. When Staff Sergeant Amara Lewis calmly placed the CEO of Titan Bank in handcuffs, gasps echoed through the office. No one expected a Marine to bring down a billionaire, but Amara had spent her life defying expectations, and today she came with receipts. The early morning fog still clung to the tarmac as Staff Sergeant Amara Lewis stepped off the C-17 transport. Plain, her polished boots striking the ground with quiet finality. Fresh from a classified cyber ops tour in Eastern Europe, she carried the discipline of a Marine and the stillness of someone who had seen too much. Atlanta welcomed her with warm, southern humidity and the familiar scent of home, jasmine, exhaust, and barbecue in the air. Her mother met her at the curb, teary-eyed but proud. Amara's father had passed the year before, and though she rarely admitted it, the grief still gnawed at her. This trip wasn't just about rest. It was about grounding herself again. Just a few miles across town, Gregory Vance, the charismatic CEO of Titan Bank, addressed shareholders from the 52nd floor of a shimmering tower. Cameras flashed as he outlined another record-breaking quarter, his voice buttery, smooth, and confident. "We're not just changing finance," he said, smiling through gleaming teeth. "We're changing lives." But in the quiet of his office, behind retinal scanners and encrypted safes, Gregory was erasing traces of wire transfers and authorizing covert crypto transactions. Shell companies with obscure names funneled billions into dark corners of the globe. No one questioned him. No one dared. Two people. Two worlds. But their paths were about to collide. Amara sat on the porch one evening, sipping sweet tea, when her brother Marcus finally opened up. A bright-eyed analyst at Titan Bank, he'd always admired her fearlessness, but chosen a quieter path. Spreadsheets, not strategy. "I know it sounds paranoid," he said, eyes flickering with unease. "But something's off in the ledgers. Big transfers disappearing. Entire client profiles being replaced by dummy data." He showed her his work. What she saw wasn't just carelessness, it was intentional manipulation. "You reported it?" He nodded slowly. "To compliance, but now they're shutting me out. My boss told me to stay in my lane, and today someone wiped my access logs." Amara's instincts kicked in. Years of military intelligence work had taught her to recognize a cover-up. She plugged in her laptop and started running traces on the metadata Marcus saved. Hidden within layers of obfuscation were links to encrypted blockchain wallets, and one signature that kept appearing, GV Holdings. She leaned back in her chair. "This isn't just shady, Marcus. This is federal crime-level fraud." He looked pale. "What do we do?" She paused, eyes narrowing. "We hunt." The next day, Amara reached out to Special Agent Alyssa Raines, her contact at NCIS Cyber Division. They met discreetly in a coffee shop near Fort McPherson. Raines scrolled through the files Amara brought. "This isn't just fraud. This is high-level money laundering. If you're right, Titan Bank is a front for half the corruption we've been tracking for years." She looked up. "You still have active clearance?" "Temporarily," Amara said. "But I'm not here as a Marine. I just want to protect my brother." Raines shook her head. "You may have to be both. If we move too soon, he'll vanish. If we wait too long, people could get hurt, including your family. We need someone inside." Amara felt her stomach twist. She had seen war zones, but corporate warfare was a different beast, more sterile, more insidious. Then she got the text. Marcus's apartment was broken into. His hard drives were missing. That was the final push. She stood, resolve hardening in her chest. "I'm in." 3 weeks later, Amara walked into Titan Bank's headquarters, not in Marine uniform, but in tailored slacks, a blazer, and a forged badge identifying her as AL Security Consulting. The board had been told she was there to investigate a data breach, a story carefully planted by Special Agent Rains to justify her presence. She played the part perfectly, sharp, efficient, aloof. Her posture screamed, corporate compliance expert. Gregory Vance barely looked at her during their first encounter, dismissing her with a polite nod. That was a mistake. Amara embedded herself in the server room and quietly installed a hidden surveillance script, software so subtle only someone with military-level training could detect it. Within hours, her custom interface began collecting encrypted Slack messages, flagged transactions, and most importantly, Gregory's private emails. The real horror unfolded slowly. Offshore transfers to known shell entities in Panama. A senator's name attached to a consulting fee worth $500,000. Pension funds rerouted through false investment portfolios. And most chilling of all, a silent pipeline of laundered cartel funds moving through Titan Bank's crypto innovation arm. This wasn't just fraud. It was treason wrapped in wealth. Amara knew she couldn't do this alone. She met Special Agent Mateo Delgado, a tenacious FBI cybercrime specialist with a history of breaking white-collar cartels. Delgado brought technical muscle and a contact at the Justice Department who could fast-track warrants if they survived long enough to use them. "You're being watched," Delgado warned, reviewing Titan Bank's internal tracking logs. "Vance's team is running pattern recognition on internal movements. You have maybe 5 days before they start asking the wrong questions." Enter Elise Monroe, a weary but sharp-eyed executive assistant with access to Vance's calendar, call logs, and decades of dirt. Elise had been building her own insurance folder, PDFs, voice recordings, notarized statements, waiting for someone brave enough to confront the giant. "I've worked here 15 years, Elise said in a whisper. "Behind the building's rooftop garden. You're the first person who actually scares him." Together the trio formed a strike team, Amara the infiltrator, Delgado the federal hammer, and Elise the inside eyes. They mapped out the plan, a full evidence dump to federal prosecutors, media time to break the story, and the arrest scheduled. For Gregory's shareholder summit, when every camera would be on him, everything was going perfectly. Until it wasn't. 3 days before the takedown, a rogue Titan Bank developer, codenamed Ginix, flagged abnormal back-end access. Ginix had been Gregory's private cyber enforcer, paid well to hunt digital anomalies. And he found one. Military-grade footprint in the audit logs. Within hours, Amara's system was being probed. Files she'd buried deep began vanishing. And then came the message. "Tell the Marine to stop digging, or we start burying." That night, Marcus was run off the road while riding home from the hospital. His car flipped and crashed into a streetlight. He survived, but barely. Concussion, broken ribs, lacerations. No witnesses, no security footage. Amara sat beside his hospital bed, holding his hand, her heart burning with fury. He'd warned her. He'd begged her to be careful. And now he was paying the price for her mission. "I should have done more," she whispered, her voice trembling. "No," Marcus murmured through dry lips. "You finish it. End him." That was all she needed. Amara returned to headquarters. The next morning, her disguise sharper, her movements colder. She knew the time for caution was over. The plan was moving up. The arrest would happen tomorrow. One last digital sweep. One final data pull. The reckoning was coming. And this time, she wasn't asking permission. The sun rose over Atlanta like a spotlight as federal agents took their places around Titan Bank Tower. Black SUVs lined the street. Helicopters hovered above. Inside, employees filed into the shareholder summit, unaware that history was about to unfold. At precisely 9:03 a.m., Gregory Vance stepped onto the stage, grinning beneath a custom-tailored suit, his speech ready to paint a future of decentralized trust and financial freedom. The board applauded politely. Cameras streamed live to international investors. Then, from the side of the room, A commanding voice cut through the air. Gregory Vance, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit financial fraud, money laundering, obstruction of justice, and violation of federal anti-corruption statutes. Gasps filled the room. Amara Lewis, in her marine dress blues, stepped forward with Special Agent Delgado and 2 NCIS officers behind her. Calm, controlled, unshakable. Gregory blinked, laughed awkwardly. This is a misunderstanding. But as Amara produced the warrant, read his rights with military precision, and slid the cuffs over his wrists, the illusion shattered. Gregory lunged, shoving over a podium trying to escape, but the agents pinned him fast. His tie twisted, his mouth foamed in rage. Every phone in the room was recording. The arrest went viral within minutes. The footage trended globally within hours. Headlines splashed across every major outlet. Marine brings down billionaire CEO in live arrest. Titan Bank fraud exposed. National corruption unraveled. The Justice March. Amara Lewis stands tall. People saw the footage. Amara's steady hand, her unwavering tone, the fall of a man once seen as untouchable. Former Titan Bank employees flooded the DOJ with evidence. Clients filed class action suits. Politicians scrambled to return campaign donations linked to GV holdings. The Securities and Exchange Commission froze Titan Bank's crypto wing. The Department of Justice issued indictments for 3 board members and 2 foreign diplomats. Elise Monroe's trove of files became a linchpin in the prosecution. Meanwhile, Amara, who never asked for fame, became a national icon. On talk shows, civil rights forums, veteran networks, and tech panels, her name echoed, a symbol of justice done right. Weeks later, Amara sat quietly in front of a federal commission. They offered her a high-level appointment, a position on a multi-agency task force to lead future corporate investigations. She smiled politely. I appreciate the offer, but I've got another mission in mind. 6 months later, in a renovated, brick building on the south side of Atlanta, the Lewis Cyber Justice Academy opened its doors. A non-profit tech training center for underprivileged youth, veterans, and whistleblowers in need of sanctuary. The motto engraved on the door, protect, empower, uplift. Marcus, fully recovered, handled curriculum and outreach. Elise became a board member, traveling the country to speak on ethics in corporate systems. And Amara? She walked the halls like she did on patrol, watching, teaching, mentoring. One afternoon, a young girl stopped her. Miss Lewis, were you scared when you arrested that CEO? Amara smiled, kneeling to eye level. Terrified. But I did it anyway. That's what courage is. And with that, she stood, her boots once again striking the ground with quiet finality. Not as a soldier in battle, but as a leader, building something new. The early morning fog still clung to the tarmac as Staff Sergeant Amara Lewis stepped off the C-17 transport plane, her polished boots striking the ground with quiet finality. Fresh from a classified cyber ops tour in Eastern Europe, she carried the discipline of a Marine and the stillness of someone who had seen too much. Atlanta welcomed her with warm southern humidity and the familiar scent of home, jasmine, exhaust, and barbecue in the air. Her mother met her at the curb, teary-eyed but proud. Amara's father had passed the year before, and though she rarely admitted it, the grief still gnawed at her. This trip wasn't just about rest. It was about grounding herself again. Several miles north, Gregory Vance, the charismatic CEO of Titan Bank, addressed shareholders from the 52nd floor of a gleaming skyscraper. Cameras flashed as he outlined another record-breaking quarter, his voice buttery smooth and confident. We're not just changing finance, he said, smiling through perfectly aligned teeth. We're changing lives. But in the quiet of his private office, behind retinal scanners and encrypted safes, Gregory was quietly erasing traces of wire transfers and authorizing covert cryptocurrency transactions. Shell companies with innocuous names, GV Holdings, EdgePoint Global, Blue Wave Investments, funneled billions into dark corners of the globe. No one questioned him. No one dared. Two people. Two worlds. But their paths were destined to collide. Amara sat on her childhood home's porch one humid evening, sipping sweet tea, when her brother Marcus finally opened up. A bright-eyed data analyst at Titan Bank, Marcus had always admired her fearlessness, but chosen a quieter path. Spreadsheets, not strategy. "I know it sounds paranoid," he said, voice low, eyes flickering with unease. "But something's off in the ledgers. Big transfers disappearing. Entire client profiles being replaced by dummy data." He pulled out a flash drive and slid it across to her. "Look at this." She tucked it into her bag, promising to investigate later. 2 nights later, with the house dark and everyone asleep, she plugged in her laptop. What she discovered was no mere bookkeeping error. It was intentional manipulation. Carefully altered timestamps, deleted audit trails, and transfers routed through multiple offshore accounts. Each transaction pointed back to one signature, GV Holdings. Amara leaned back in her chair. "This isn't just shady, Marcus," she said when they spoke on the phone. "This is federal crime-level fraud." He went silent, voice trembling. "What do we do?" She paused, determination settling in her chest. "We hunt." The next morning, Amara reached out to Special Agent Alyssa Rains, her contact at NCIS Cyber Division. They met in a nondescript coffee shop, a place filled with the aroma of roasted beans and quiet murmurs. Rains scanned the files Amara had brought, her face tightening with each page. "This isn't just fraud. This is high-level money laundering," Rains said. "If you're right, Titan Bank is a front for half the corruption we've been tracking for years." Amara nodded. "I can prove it. I just need the green light." Rains shook her head. "You don't have active clearance, and Titan Bank's legal team is formidable. You'll need someone inside." Amara felt a weight in her chest. She had seen war zones, but corporate warfare was a different beast, more sterile, more insidious. Then came the text she'd been dreading. Marcus's apartment was broken into. His hard drives are missing. Her world tilted. Rains placed a hand on Amara's arm. "Be careful. These people play dirty." Amara's eyes hardened. "I'm already in this. I'll finish it." 3 weeks later, Amara strode into Titan Bank's headquarters, not in Marine uniform, but in tailored slacks, a crisp blouse, and a forged badge identifying her as AL Security Consulting. The board had been told she was investigating a minor data breach, an explanation carefully brokered by Rains to justify her presence. She played the part perfectly, sharp, efficient, and discreet. Her posture and aura radiated authority. Gregory Vance barely glanced at her during their first encounter, dismissing her with a polite nod. That was his first mistake. Amara embedded herself in the server room and quietly deployed a hidden surveillance script, software so subtle that only someone with military-grade expertise could detect it. Within hours, her covert interface began, collecting encrypted Slack messages, flagged transaction logs, and most crucially, Gregory's private emails. The horror unfolded slowly. Offshore transfers to shell entities in Panama, a senator's name attached to a consulting fee worth $500,000. Pension funds rerouted through falsified investment portfolios, and most chilling of all, a silent conduit of laundered cartel money being funneled through Titan Bank's Crypto Innovation Division. This wasn't just fraud. It was treason wrapped in wealth. Amara knew she couldn't take this down alone. She arranged a clandestine meeting with Special Agent Mateo Delgado, a tenacious FBI cybercrime specialist with a reputation for dismantling white-collar cartels. Delgado brought the technical muscle and a crucial Justice Department contact who could fast-track warrants if they survived long enough to use them. "You're being watched," Delgado warned, reviewing internal network logs. "Titan Bank's IT security is top tier. They'll spot anomalies soon. You have about 5 days before questions start coming your way." Meanwhile, Amara made contact with Elise Monroe, a world-weary executive assistant who had spent 15 years inside Titan Bank's gilded walls. Elise had quietly amassed a dossier of incriminating emails, audio recordings, and notarized statements, an insurance policy she was too scared to activate. I've watched him charm the camera, crush our competitors, and smile while ruining lives, Elise confessed in a hushed voice during a rooftop meeting behind the building. You're the first person who actually scares him. Together, the trio formed an impromptu strike team. Amara, the infiltrator and cybersecurity expert. Delgado, the federal hammer with legal firepower. Elise, the inside eyes and keeper of crucial evidence. They mapped out the takedown, upload the full dossier to federal prosecutors, synchronize a media release to coincide with Gregory's next shareholder summit, and execute the arrest when every camera was focused on his face. Everything was proceeding according to plan, until the plan began to unravel. 3 days before the scheduled takedown, a rogue Titan Bank developer, known only by the handle Ginix, flagged unusual back-end access. Ginix was Gregory's private cyber enforcer, hired to hunt digital anomalies. And he found one, a military-grade footprint hidden deep in the FIA audit logs. Within hours, someone on the inside began probing Amara's concealment script. Key files she'd hidden started disappearing. Then the message flashed across her phone. Tell the Marine to stop digging, or we start burying. That same night, Marcus was run off the road while returning from the hospital. His car lurched across the median and slammed into a streetlight. When Amara arrived at the emergency room, he lay unconscious with a concussion, broken ribs, and a fractured collarbone. Tears blurred her vision as she took his hand. I'm sorry, she whispered, voice quavering. I thought I could protect. You! He squeezed her fingers weakly. Finish it, he rasped. End him. Rage and determination fused in her veins. She returned to Titan Bank the next morning wearing an aura colder than steel. The luxury lobby, the marble floors, the gleaming elevator, nothing would deter her now. The takedown was moved up. It would happen tomorrow. One last digital sweep. One final evidence pull. The reckoning was imminent. And this time, there would be no mercy. The following morning, the sun glinted off Titan Bank Tower like a spotlight. Black SUVs lined the curb. Tactical teams fanned out around the perimeter. Inside, employees filed into the grand ballroom for the annual shareholders' summit, unaware that their world was about to collapse. At precisely 9:03 a.m., Gregory Vance stepped to the podium, face illuminated by stage lights and camera flashes. He cleared his throat, ready to deliver a speech about innovation, transparency, and the future of finance. The board members sat stiffly in the front row, flanked by high-profile investors whose stakes were worth millions. Suddenly, a measured voice cut through the hush. Gregory Vance, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit financial fraud, money laundering, obstruction of justice, and violation of federal anti-corruption statutes. Gasps rippled through the audience. Standing beside Special Agent Delgado and 2 NCIS officers in full uniform, Amara Lewis, now back in her dress blues, walked forward, each measured step echoing in the vaulted hall. Cameras flashed furiously. Employees froze, clutching phones and briefcases. Investors gawked, mouths agape. Gregory's confident smile faltered. This is a mistake, he stammered, stepping back. Amara leveled a steely gaze at him. You have the right to remain silent, as... She recited his rights. He lunged, knocking over a lectern. His tie whipped around his neck, face contorted with rage and panic. 2 agents tackled him to the ground. The room erupted, stunned whispers, snapped photos, and frantic camera clicks. By 9:07 a.m., the powerful man who once ruled Titan Bank was in handcuffs, his empire collapsing under the weight of his own corruption. Within minutes, the arrest footage exploded across social media. Headlines blared on every major news outlet. Marine brings down billionaire CEO in live arrest. Titan Bank fraud exposed. National corruption unraveled. the Justice March, Amara Lewis, Marine, hero. Viewers watched, mesmerized, as Amara's calm authority contrasted with Gregory's unraveling facade. Former Titan Bank employees flooded the DOJ and SEC with sworn statements, leaked documents, and forged receipts that confirmed years of malfeasance. Clients filed class action suits. Politicians hastily returned consulting fees tied to GV Holdings. The Securities and Exchange Commission froze Titan Bank's cryptocurrency division. The Department of Justice issued indictments not only for Gregory, but for 3 board members and 2 foreign diplomats implicated in bribery schemes. Elise Monroe's mountain of evidence became Exhibit A in multiple prosecutions. Amara, who had never sought fame, found herself a national icon. Late-night talk show hosts praised her courage. Veteran organizations saluted her service. Civilized. Rights groups hailed her as a trailblazer for black women in uniform. She granted only a single interview, stating simply, "Justice doesn't pick sides. It serves the people." 6 months later, Amara sat before a federal commission, an offer letter in her hand. The DOJ and FBI had created a new multi-agency task force dedicated to rooting out corporate corruption, and they wanted her to lead it. She read the title aloud, Director of Cyber Financial Crimes Enforcement. She looked up at the assembled officials, her marine bearing softened by a genuine smile. "I appreciate the offer," she said, voice steady, "but I have another mission." 10 days later, a renovated brick building on the south side of Atlanta opened its doors as the Lewis Cyber Justice Academy. The facade bore a simple plaque, Protect, Empower, Uplift. Inside, state-of-the-art computer labs glowed under fluorescent lights. Young men and women from underserved neighborhoods tapped keyboards, learning to code, to spot fraud, to safeguard data. Veterans sat alongside high school students, all united by a common purpose, to fight corruption with knowledge and technology. Marcus, fully recovered and determined, served as director of curriculum, designing courses in data forensics and ethical hacking. Elise Monroe, now a recognized corporate ethics advocate, served on the board of directors, traveling the country to speak about her experience blowing the whistle on a powerful empire. One afternoon, a dozen bright-eyed students gathered in a classroom. Among them was a shy teenage girl named Naomi, who watched Amara with wide admiration. During a break, Naomi approached. "Miss Lewis?" she asked, voice trembling. "Were you ever scared when you arrested that CEO?" Amara knelt, matching her gaze. "Terrified," she admitted, sincerity shining in her eyes. "But bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what needs to be done, despite being scared." Naomi nodded, eyes shining with newfound purpose. Amara straightened, her boots clicking on the polished floor. She passed a row of screens displaying live-streamed ethics webinars, coding challenges, and mentoring sessions. Each screen was a testament to her mission, turning trauma into empowerment, corruption into accountability. And as she walked down the corridor, the gentle hum of dedicated students and staff followed her, proof that one woman's unwavering stand against injustice could spark a movement, change a community, and reshape countless futures.